My second research area is about these top-down policies. Like top-down, place-based policies means the policy is bundled with a location. So I started this high-speed rail in China, high-speed rail investment in China, and the subway system in Chinese cities, and also the industrial parks in Chinese cities. That's a special economic zone policy. So those are all like top-down. The government decide where to build the subway station, where to build a high-speed rail to connect which cities instead of other cities, and to which to put an industrial park, which city to put the industrial park in. All those are top-down decisions. So those, I feel, is very China-specific. But I can still review some like implications, basically how these top-down policies can effectively respond to this bottom-up demand, and whether these policy makers, they are making the smart decision or a stupid choice by imposing those top-down policies in the wrong way. So for those, I can draw some implications that later can be generalized into other countries, especially to those places that these top-down policies are also very commonly used. In China, I started this very important place-based industrial policy, which is the industrial park. So for the industrial park, the rationale in China's case is the government will give subsidy to a specific designated new city, new area. Say if the firms enter this zone, so they are entitled to many favorable policies, such as tax deduction for several years, and cheap land, cheap utility, all the things. So that's the rationale is to use this subsidy to stimulate a specific location's growth. It's a short-run subsidy. It's not like forever, maybe 3 years, 5 years, with a hope that after 3 or 5 years, already enough firms have entered this area and they have fostered such an agglomeration, and then this can become self-sustaining. So after 3 or 5 years, enough firms are here, and then they can self-sustain. So they no longer need subsidy, they can just generate growth by themselves. That's a rationale. So, and in China's case, they always use this policy, this industrial park or special economic zone policy, to put the subsidy, this policy, in strong places. For example, the coastal area, in China's case, the East Coast, that's basically with relatively developed economy, because the policy and the location advantage in the policy can strengthen each other. So if you put a subsidy in a desert, then it's useless. Nobody will go to the desert, even if you put a lot of subsidy there. Or some firms will come, but once the subsidy is gone, then they will leave. So it's very hard to boost an area with very weak fundamentals if you just put a lot of subsidy there. That will also cause the so-called distortion. You just use some subsidy to get some like short-run firms to coming in, but it will distort the market. So that's why the rationale in China's case is to put the policy in relatively strong places with strong fundamentals. So they strengthen each other, the strong places become stronger. And the subsidy will also have a very good return because they really generate further higher economic growth. So that's why, in general, this industrial park policy in China are relatively successful because they target at stronger places. And in other countries, for example, here in the United States, and I know also in other places, for example, some places in Europe, so they also have this kind of place-based policy, like opportunity zone. But the rationale is to use this policy to help lag behind weak places. Because the weak place, then we give you the policy, you have the subsidy, you can get firms in that more job opportunities, and people can get jobs and then have some local tax revenue, etc. So that's the rationale here. It's a little bit different. So that's why sometimes you will observe in other places when you put policy in weak places, it's a higher likelihood to fail, because if the fundamentals are very weak, it's very hard. You just put money into the desert, or you put a lot of subsidy, but the effect is not that big. So that's my understanding of the China's this industrial park policies rationale, and here the opportunity zone rationale.